What you're looking at is our 56 two-door Chevy station wagon. And this floor is in its final resting place. So, we'll tell that story. We'll back up for a second. We got the front on jack stands. Now I like to use that part of my shop because that floor, for some reason, is as close to level as you're gonna get. And I just threw this here by hand and didn't measure nothing, but you can see we're just about level with the bubbles touching the one line. So without flipping that upside down using the other bubble or anything, we went by that one. We took our level. We ran it right across here. It's perfect. It matched up there. And then we took it, we checked across here on top and about a foot in under, and it was the same. The car is sitting beautifully level. The floor is in the car, and there's a few places where you'll see vice grips hanging down like that. She's pinched in. I kind of made a mistake here, so we're gonna have to fix that. But this is the final resting place of the floor. So as you can see back there, we made our pieces. Let me show you close up on this side. We replicated what the factory had. Of course, we've got our weld across here, and we did a flange and sat that against it. And we're going to run a bit of seam sealer across that, but otherwise that's going to live how it is. It's under the interior, we don't care, but it's solid. And it's in the direction where we're not too worried about rust or any issues happening there. At least not, you know, the way a classic car is going to be stored and driven. So we're pretty happy with that. We're very happy over there. That lines up to that metal plate where that corner can be welded. Same as this side here. So we're going to start with that. We're going to weld both front corners down each side at the back. And we're going to have to manipulate the wheel well a little bit. Let me show you why. That's just part of the aftermarket world. It is what it is. So this gap was around pretty good. So we got some tight spots there with vice grips holding. If you look right here, you'll see those little marks in the metal. That's just from when they press this together. You're going to get a bit of that. But we can weld up here where it's tight, and then we'll move our vice grips down here and a couple down here. We'll tighten that up and weld that, and then we'll pull that in as tight as we can and weld it. And if it doesn't want to pull tight without buckling, we have room underneath where we can catch the edge, and it'll kind of angle and reform itself till, you know, till we get it tight enough that we can throw a couple welds in. Same idea over there. I don't got to show you that. We do have two little plates. You can see right through the car there. We're going to make that little corner from underneath, from the outside. And the same with this one, but on this side we're going to have to put a slice in here and weld it in. That was my bad. Now the other thing you got to watch, you want everything tightened down as tight as it's going to go, because this is where it's going to be bolted on to live forever, and that's where we want it when the body sits. So the floor's down. We snugged them all down tight. We snugged both of those down tight. And then there's two at the very back underneath. Now the two at the back and the two at the front position the body, and that's where the body has to live. So the floor seems pretty close. The body is where it's going to be. We're welding it all in. This is where it's going to live. Now one thing we had to do, and this is common on any one-piece floor, we put a jack here and a post. We had to jack the tunnel up. We had to hammer one side over till it kind of fit the tunnel, that side up, and so on. And it lined up pretty good. That'll actually squeeze together no problem when we put our vice grips in there. You can see the floor here matches pretty decent. You know, you'll see a little gap like that. We'll crush that with the vice grips. We'll put one of our welds right in the middle. Our tunnel's pretty close. We basically took, one of these hammers and a rubber mallet and hit a few places where we had to and whatnot until we got it sitting right. Now, you're not going to be able to get it right all the way across. So what I like to do is I'll get one side good. That's where it's going to live. We'll get that this way till that matches up, and then we'll go around. So we'll burn this in first. We'll burn this in after. And we'll go about 3/4 of the way around till we hit about here. This is actually a little low. So once that can't move, we can gently tap this down. But you can see this floor is a little bit high. So we're going to go under the black here. After we burn this down, we're going to pry up right here underneath. It's good right here. Just right here, we could lift it a little bit. Now honestly, that's close enough for something under a carpet. You could just squish it and weld it. But we're going to try to get it as clean as we can. So because that's so nice, we'll try to manipulate that a little bit to fit better and then weld it, and then we'll build our 2 little corner pieces. So this is where we're at. We'll burn that in. I think I explained this pretty good so far. But this is where everything is pretty much going to live. You don't want the frame to not be as close to level as possible, because you have to imagine when it's got 4 tires and it's sitting, the car's going to go into what they call droop. Full droop. Where you drop the whole car with the weight on it. The frame goes like this because it's sitting on its tires. So back here, it's actually sitting on suspension. Our stands are under the axle, which doesn't always allow things to be level. You often got to put a jack somewhere just to slightly move it. But in this case, we're good. Our springs must be healthy. And then our jack stands keep the front level and the car is level. Sometimes you'll have a car, it'll have a little bit of a twist to it. You know, from sitting cockeyed in the back of a barn for many years or something like that. But you can always throw a few more jack stands or jacks, raise the frame. But you do want to raise it around where the axle supports, as close as you can. Now, some guys say, oh, you got to go directly under the A-arms. I don't know. I feel this is safer. Safety's your own problem. That's up to you to deal with that. But this is close enough to the A-arms that we'll be close enough. We're happy. So once we get the floor burnt in, this is going to be one of the most solid 56 Chevys there is. And at that point, this will be next. We will cut that whole entire floor and brace system out and build our own. We're just going to run a flat floor. So this is where we're at. Once the floors are done inside, we basically got a little work to do here. On the other side, this side's okay. We're going to do brand new rockers, lower quarters, just down in this area. And I'm sure we'll discover some other metal work. Something was bolted on here. We'll probably cut that out, put a piece in, weld that shut. A few minor little things like that, but mostly the car will be solid. And once it's solid and all the body's done with all good metal, the body will come off the frame one last time. We'll mount it to a rotisserie. Springtime, we're going to get it all sandblasted so we can get in all these crevices and so on. We're not going to bother sandblasting the quarters and probably not the roof. They're easy areas to get at. We will, however, sandblast all the way down the rain guard, around all the windows. You know, I mean, I can clean this. I'm not too concerned about that, but what about all this inner framework and, right, you got a groove all up in there, and how do you get down in here? I mean, we can spin a lot of it out with wire brushes and different grinders and everything else, but we don't want to be working on this car for a gazillion hours. So to get all the junk out of here, Up in here, there's multiple grooves here. 1, 2. You get the idea. Probably tape those holes shut so we don't fill that up with sand. I don't know. We'll see what the sandblaster says. But probably gonna have to do some metal work right there. But once we sandblast this out and get rid of anything weak, we'll know exactly what we got to patch up and fix. Which isn't a big deal. It's just faster, you know, and it's a place where you don't want to spend a bunch of time trying to do it by hand. This car is pretty crusty. You know, if you shot peen this a little bit, I don't think it'll go out of whack too much. Bottom is super nice. The top's got a little bit of light pitting, but we can probably sandblast that little area, sandblast this little groove out. You can see these little dings. That's actually the factory. They would squeeze these, and it holds a rubber trim piece in. There's a rubber that comes out. Your bumper goes over it. It just cleans up the gap. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'll burn this in, do a few patches, and we'll see you in our next video. Thanks for watching. Cheers.